Hi there. Today I'm taking a look at a wine I've been sent by a wine competition. The New World Wine Awards. New World are a New Zealand supermarket, and this is Beresford's McLaren Vale Chardonnay, and the vintage on that is 2022, and you'll see it sporting its gold medal there from the competition. McLaren Vale isn't particularly an area that I would think of as producing cool climate Chardonnay, so I'm expecting a relatively full and rich wine that I'm hoping is going to be great value for money. I've looked and it's not particularly expensive. Beresford are an estate that doesn't have a huge long history. The estate was created in 1985 when Rob and Bronwyn Dundon appear to have bought a portion of the old Horndale winery. Information I've seen said that they bought the Horndale winery, but that's sort of slightly confused because actually in 1985 it had been bought by the Albrecht family, who still own it. So my assumption is that the Dundons bought a set of vineyards or something like that that were being sold off to enable the Albrechts to have some capital in their business. In 2012 the estate was bought by the Bickford group, who are a family-owned South Australian company owned by the Kotses family that's largely involved in producing cordials, soft drinks, but also produces a certain amount of ciders, so they are involved in the production of alcohol. And they very much bought the estate with the intention of turning it into an events venue with associated accommodation, but at the same time they've kept up, it's a 70 hectare estate, so it has a fair amount of vineyards, and one of the things I would say is they claim to have 50-year-old Grenache, and that would make some sense of the Horncastle purchase, because the Horncastle winery was initially founded in 1896, and therefore historic vines might well have been associated with purchases of vineyards from that property. So I think the point is that in 2012 the Bickford group buying the winery brought renewed investment for the cellars, for the vineyards. And actually, potentially what seeing this wine with a gold medal is doing is showing that has produced some rewards in terms of great value for money wines. Looking at the notes on this, they say that it was picked in the cool of the morning, so I would assume, and at this price it can only have been really machine harvesting went on. And that's one of the advantages of machine harvesting. You can pick with spotlights fairly early in the morning, normally about sort of 2-3 o'clock is the coolest part of the morning. And that stops the fruit from getting oxidised in heat if it's picked during the day, so that it enables the retention of fresh aromatics and it stops the fruit spoiling on its way to the winery. The notes I've seen suggest that the wine was split into two portions, 80% of it going to be barrel fermented and a remaining 20%, which they describe as the more aromatic portion of the fruit, being kept separate. Now they don't actually say, but I'm assuming therefore that was fermented in stainless steel tanks. That was then racked off its gross lees after fermentation and aged for 6 months prior to blending. The portion that was fermented, again I'm making an assumption, but I would assume was inoculated with yeast in tank, then that the fermenting must from those tanks was put into barrel to ferment. That would make much more sense of the wine's price point in terms of how this is made. So you're getting two sides of things. You've got one aromatic portion that's very fresh but has aged with the fine lees and should add some sort of creamy complexity as a result of that, but the majority of it going into barrel. The notes say predominantly French oak, so there may be a little American oak in there, and they say about 40% new, so that's a fairly hefty proportion of new oak there. So I'm expecting for a wine of its price that this is going to be showing me quite a lot of oak there. The wine that fermented in barrel was left in there with its gross lees for a further 6 months after that, so we should be getting plenty of richness from that portion, and then the two are blended and bottled. They also make the point that the wine is suitable for vegetarians and vegans, so that would suggest there's been no fining with any animal products during the process. So let's taste the wine, shall we? See what we make of it. Looking at the colour, that's a medium yellow colour. There might be slightly greenish hints, or it could be that I'm looking at the grass behind it there. It's not particularly greenish. There's a reasonable depth. I'm swirling the glass there. The label says it's got 12.8% alcohol, which is not particularly high for Chardonnay, to be honest, if they're aiming for real richness. So let's see what we make of the aroma, shall we? The aromas are restrained. There's an almost limey note to the fruit. There's sort of citric lift. There are some creamy notes. And perhaps behind that a little bit of delicate peachiness, but not a lot. So let's taste. On the palate, that has quite forward oak. It's quite nicely handled. I mean, if you enjoy a punchy oaky wine, I think this is possibly for you. There's an almost saline note to the oak. It's sort of cedary. There are touches of vanilla, but then there's that sort of buttery butterscotch note throughout it. There's a creamy texture. The wine's medium bodied. The acidity is balanced, it's not particularly standing out. There's a sort of a roundness and a juiciness. That's where the sort of slightly stone fruit, delicate peachy note is coming through. It's not a rich, ripe peach, it's a much more delicate, refined peach pear sort of flavour there. There are toasty notes from the oak combining with really quite nice, leesy, creamy notes to give a rounded texture on the back palate. I mean, this is not a particularly fine or elegant example of Chardonnay, but it is rich, it's complex, it's delivering plenty of flavour that is actually continuing to develop in my mouth really quite nicely. I think if you like rich, fairly ripe, New World styles of Chardonnay, this would be a wine that you might think was great value for money. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you found this of interest. If you've enjoyed the video, please do press the like button below. Do share it with your friends. Do tell us what you think. It'd be great to see your comments appear in the box below, either talking about the wine or about the tastings that we're doing. If you feel like following us on YouTube, that would be fantastic. But most importantly, I do hope you'll manage to find time to join us for another tasting online really soon. Bye now.